Hello, we are heading into Asian trading at the end of Wednesday, the 19th of June, which has been a holiday in the United States for Juneteenth. So the ETF markets have been closed and the futures markets are due to reopen shortly. And we will see what the market will make of this, because we have had a pretty nasty loss of support, or key support, I think, in some markets like Bitcoin and Solana, and surprisingly, well, or unsurprisingly, ETH is holding up really strongly and pretty bullish in terms of kind of candlesticks and moving averages compared to a lot of other markets. So let's take a look first of all at where we are in Bitcoin. The key support that I have been talking about and that I was looking for Bitcoin to hold was this 200-day moving average, 50-day moving average. What am I talking about? The 200 moving average is down here. And that 50-day moving average for Bitcoin is really kind of key trend guide. When you get underneath it, it should be support. And if you're in an uptrend, it should be resistance. And you could see when we've had nasty pullbacks that have lost the 20 moving average before in Bitcoin, if we're going to keep going higher, the 50 usually acts like the backstop and as of support and resistance. And yesterday we had a really nasty move lower, and we are closed underneath that daily 50 and potentially looking lower from here. I would say that the tail, though, was a little bit of a surprise. We had a last minute end of day rally that kind of held the sideways range, and today really has been a day of indecision in Bitcoin. So I think when we open, we will find out which way we go from here. But for me, I wouldn't be, whilst we stand underneath this daily 50, even though they're flat and that points to a little bit of a sideways range, my feeling is that we head lower from here. There is a couple of reasons in terms of fibs why we could find some support here, and I could be wrong, and we hold support. But I want to see evidence of it at this point. So if I measure from this low to high, where we found support and we bounced pretty hard yesterday was the 50% retrace. So the whole rally from the 1st of May to the 21st of May and the beginning of June highs, this was a 50% back at 64,000. When you reverse to the 50% retrace level and you get above the back test of the 38.2, so if we bounce hard here, or hard on the US Open, the key resistance is going to be that 66,000 level that we thought previously was support, and this 38.2 fib level, and the daily 50 moving average. Any close above 66 means that we are going to continue higher to 50% of this entire drop. Things with 50% retraces tend to keep, mean reverting markets tend to keep mean reverting. So that's what I would expect to see if we get above 66. Whilst we stand underneath 66,000, I'm afraid it's still resistance. And what we could see is some kind of, three-wave corrective pattern, and that's where we'll find out. This is kind of our bull-bear line, and we're a little bit bearish whilst we're underneath 66,000 then. And if we push above it, I'm going to be looking higher to 68,000. So that's where we are in Bitcoin. Now, no nasty losses in ETH. One thing I will say, close in terms of these candlesticks, when you get nasty big red days like we had yesterday, 50% back of the open close very often is resistance. It's a midline. Again, you take the open close, and if you look at this, not being able to close more than 50% back up of this nasty red candle keeps us, I'm afraid, bearish. Never mind the 66,000, we may not get that far. If we take a look at ETH, this is a pretty nice picture. Here's our weekly, and I just want to look at the weekly first because of the weekly candlesticks. So when you have a big up thrust candle, just like a down thrust candle, and you then have a pattern of tight little inside bars, which we have had for the last 4 weeks now in ETH, which cannot close more than 50% back. So again, we're looking at a big thrust candle, and the opposite of Bitcoin, we are looking at 50% back of this holding on a closed basis, and that's here 3,448. Interesting support and resistance level here in ETH as well. As long as we don't have a weekly close underneath that, this is just pretty bullish consolidation, and we could very easily continue higher here in a fifth wave. We go 1, 2, 3, this is 4, and we continue higher. If we look at this level on a daily, you can see that on the daily, even on the daily close basis, this is pretty key. So 3,400, as long as we don't close underneath it or underneath this daily 50 moving average, which we're holding as support, unlike Bitcoin, it's pretty bullish. So ETH US dollar is outperforming, and this potentially could be a three-wave correction, a double bottom, where we see a swing higher from it. To go the other opposite direction though, we need to close above this daily 20 moving average. We need to close higher than 236 from this low, which we've already done. So potentially we could be setting up a bit of a bullish move here, and then we would have 1, 2, 3, this is a wave 4, and we would see a fifth wave taking us to new highs. So if you are looking for a little port in the storm that will shelter you from what's going on in the rest of crypto, ETH doesn't look too bad at the moment as a little place to maybe have a little bit of a lottery ticket. Now, it's going to be held back if everything else is selling off, but it's certainly not going down. So if we look at ETH against Bitcoin, which gives us a better we can see, let's take a look. Here's the weekly. Let's start with the weekly chart of this one, because this has made a ETH against Bitcoin has made a really kind of slowed down bottoming pattern here. We've recovered above the weekly 20 moving average, but we are really kind of stuck in the weeds in a bit of a chop zone, aren't we? If we take a look at the fibs from the all-time high, which in this comes in 2018, to the all-time low, which was in 2019, these are the fib levels. You know, they initially are support and resistance, and when you get underneath them, they're a little bit of a ladder. So we can say that 0.057 is what we need to get above if we have reversed this. This was also where we couldn't close above before. And this kind of becomes our key support level. I really do like what we're doing here on the daily, though. We pull back into these daily moving averages and we're moving higher. So whilst I think ETH against Bitcoin and pretty much everything else is a pretty good port in this storm, we do need to watch out for potential wobble level at 0.057. But I think above it we are going to see much more upside, and 0.07 next in terms of climbing back up the fib levels in this one. And we can say that the big rally from September 2019 to the high in 2021, we've completed a three-wave correction. And here I would say that this is our next leg higher, which should take us to new highs. Now, when I say new highs, I'm looking for 0.1 in ETH against Bitcoin. This was a textbook equal measured move. If I measure from this high to low, project it from here, look, 1, 2, 3, a textbook equal measured move. So this also says this back test of this 61.8 level could be a little bit of a wobble level, and we can see it as support and resistance. So we've got a couple of levels that we need to worry about. 0.057 and 0.061 could be little wobble levels, but above 0.061 we are on course to retest these highs, and my target ETH against Bitcoin would be 0.1 next. So looking really good, ETH against Bitcoin. What about Solana against ETH? So I've got this the other way round, right? So this is Solana ETH. So going up, Solana's outperforming. Going down, ETH is outperforming Solana. And here, this was another one where for quite a long time, really, since the end of 2022, Solana has been outperforming ETH. We made a big 5 waves. Normally, when you make a big 5 waves like this, you can see that this is a slightly higher low, so this is actually 5 waves. The normal place you would see a pullback to is the bottom of this wave 4, which is also pretty interesting support and resistance, and it's also the weekly 50 moving average. Now, if I was wrong about this, potentially, we could just do a little ABC and 3 waves, and I could be, you know, one of the reasons that you don't do this and you get it wrong is sometimes it looks like this is a 5th wave, but actually it could just be wave 1 of a much bigger 5th wave, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because they all subdivide. And one thing you see in crypto a lot is these 5th waves really extend. But in this case, no, we made a higher low. It's looking all very toppy. It happened exactly at these previous highs, and previous highs and lows in crypto and all markets are always, you know, trouble levels. So I think having lost this weekly 20 moving average and these lows, which we were holding on to pretty well, if we look sideways here, you can see until the last 2 days, we were holding on to this support here around 0.04. In the last 2 days, we lost it. We lost it yesterday, and now we are seeing pretty nasty follow through in Solana against ETH. And so, yeah, I do think ETH is a better bet than Solana at the moment. And we're going to look for it to see what happens here at 0.03. But if we have completed a big 5 waves up here, maybe a wave 1, we could see a much bigger pullback. You know, I wouldn't be shocked if we didn't bounce here down here. But, you know, wave 1s could retrace quite a long way. There's no kind of rules. So if we measure from this low, we could see a big 50% retrace. Oh, look at that. The 50% is exactly where we'd marked with these highs and lows and weekly 50. So kind of makes it a bit of a sure thing. 0.0329 then, 50% back. So if you're looking, when should I buy Solana back against ETH? That's where I would be looking. And that is going to be causing some weakness. You know, everything else will get sold so people can buy ETH with the upcoming ETFs, of course. So how are things doing in other markets? Well, one of the markets I've been looking at is memes. Here's WIF, dog with hat. This was a pretty interesting support level. Here's a big weekly daily chart. So we had a big textbook 3 waves equal measured move higher. We had a big 3 waves measured move back here, and it was holding the support pretty nicely. Really interesting support and resistance level around 2.2. And if I measure from this high to this low and project it from here, this was also 61.8. And in these 3 wave corrections, very often the 3rd wave, the C leg if you like, is 61.8 of the 1st leg, the A leg. So this was pretty key support. We lost it yesterday in WIF. So that was at 2.2. Now, there are some tails which indicate potentially we've got some support. And you can see right when this was launched that this is a pretty nasty chop zone in between 1.9 and 2.2. So 1.94 and 2.2. But I think if we lose these supports and these tails and this close underneath, WIF, which has not been an easy trade, it's been pretty choppy, I think continues lower, unfortunately. And that's not good news. Now, on the open, after the market is closed, we could potentially see a bigger 3 waves, but I'm afraid this is a sell on bounces until we continue lower. We flattened out a bit, but with, you know, unless we can regain this 2.2 previous support level, the outlook's not good, and we are likely to come back and retest range lows in this one. Not everything looks terrible. I'm going to show you a couple at the moment that I'm watching to see if we can get a bottoming pattern. One of them is sushi. So sushi, let's zoom out. One of the reasons that I'm interested in sushi is because from the low that we made last year, it looks to me like we made very nice 5 waves back. And so I had been looking here around these lows, this previous wave 4, to see if we could make a bottom in sushi and see another leg higher. So 3 waves back, bottom of this wave 4, and up we go again. We haven't been able to. But there is a kind of, just below here, a really better support and resistance level. If I go left to this low from 2022, and then you can look at these range lows like this, and then in fact, even in the low in the middle, there's kind of, yeah, there's a little bit of a maybe level here. And you know, when your moving averages go flat, which they are here on the weekly, it means you've got no trend, you're in a sideways range, and you need to look at the range lows and range highs. So when we look at this here in sushi, we know that these, if we do bounce here, the range highs are here, and they're going to be the first problem level, and back above it, we could be going up again. We could also be making quite an interesting bigger, we're retesting the low from 2020, but we could end up with a bigger head and shoulders pattern here, and this is a very good level to make a right shoulder. So I'm not 100% sure that we're headed all the way back to retest the lows. This is kind of one of those levels where I'm looking at. If I look at it on the daily, you can see here we are, if I line it out better with this previous low, we're holding this previous low with a double bottom. So when I'm looking at it, there's two ways I look at this. Like, I don't tend to buy double bottom levels blind. I tend to either look for lower time frame moving averages to flip and give me a long entry, and then see how we go from there. So you can see down here on the 15-minute, we flipped our moving averages bullish, and here we are consolidating at that 200 moving average, looking set to go high. And even better on the hourly, we have 1, 2, 3, potentially this is a wave 4, and we've flipped our hourly moving averages bullish. So for me, if we break out from this consolidation, I'm going to look for this to be taken back to these highs and lows here in the middle around 0.9, and this hourly 200 moving average next on the moving next, and see if we can break above it and kind of go level to level to level like that. And if we go back to the daily, can see there's quite a good chance we could do that. We're pretty oversold, and we're a long way from that daily 20 moving average. And just, you know, I don't know how this is going to unfold. What I won't like to see is like a big, really obvious 1, 2, 3 wave equal measured move. That would point to it being bearish and just a corrective move. So I'm looking for a really nice looking 5 waves up in this one from a really good level, I think. And another one that's quite interesting, got a similar pattern going on, is render. So not many of the AI coins have been doing very well compared to Nvidia, which is basically the market now. When we look at the weekly one, this is render against Tether, and we look at the highs from the launch in 2021, which we broke above at the beginning of this year. We've pulled back, and each time we've pulled back to this high, I've marked the closing high, but you can see previously we haven't had a weekly close underneath this, even spike high. So really kind of interesting support. Also, if this is a big 1, 2, 3, this is where, like with this is where the C leg is 61.8 of the first leg. So potentially this could be a reversal level. I don't like how we're underneath that weekly 20. So for me, getting back above that weekly 20 would be the first target, and then above that we can talk about, yeah, we've managed it and we've bottomed here. If we close underneath 7.2, I think that there's going to be a pretty nasty drop back to the equal measured move, which is down at 4.3. So here on the daily, I'm looking at this, and this looks even better when we look at it here, because we've got the daily 200 moving average lining up with this pretty interesting support level, these previous lows, and of course the highs and lows all the way back from the launch. So not a bullish reversal yet in this one. Let's take some of this markings off and let's look at this on the hourly. And again, just like sushi, 1, 2, 3, hopefully a wave 4. I'm looking for another leg high, which would be 5 waves off this low. I'm looking to see if we can take out this hourly moving 200 moving average, which has been resistance all the way down. And another way to look for confirmed that we have bottomed is to go all the way from the high from this whole swing and look where that 236 fib is, because if we can get above that 236 fib, we are usually gonna we're gonna see some more upside. You want to see a reaction at the 236 fib, but not a reversal. And you can see that actually this is exactly where we are having a little bit of trouble here in render. But if we get above it or break out above it, on the open or this week, then I'm looking for more upside, and this bounce from this 200 moving average will be really interesting. If this is a false breakout and a spike, we'll likely fail at this 200 moving average and drop back underneath 7.8 again. So yeah, I'm kind of looking at this one. So where might that go? Well, if this was just a 3-wave measured move, we could be starting the whole new thing. Yeah, just going to wait and see at the moment. You know, we've got to get back above these moving averages. It's not going to be a straight, smooth ride, but this is kind of, there are not very many in this nasty downtrend, and you have to trade really carefully. I'm not sure that shorting Bitcoin or ETH is a smart game. Certainly some of the others are more fun to short, but I'm looking at ones that potentially could give us a pretty nice swing. So render, even some like, so bit sensor, which is Tau. This is quite a fun one to trade. Here we are sitting at the weekly 50 moving average. It's a 61.8 retrace from the low that we made in May 2023 to the high that we made in April 2024. We did a very nice, I think, 5-wave rally in this, and so you're kind of looking back somewhere in the middle, 50 or 61.8. This is so far, I mean, it's only Wednesday, isn't it? So far, this is a pretty bullish weekly candle forming at this weekly 50 moving average. So, you know, holding and getting back above this 61.8 that we closed underneath would be a first good sign here. So far, it's not happening, but it's just a doji. But here we can see underneath it, if we look at it on the daily, it's a little bit more clear where our support and resistance is at 31484. This is bit cents or US dollar. If we can get above this, then I think we'll see more upside. The first target would be 403, which is a pretty chunky move, and then because it's a 61.8 and this is this kind of golden ratio zone, if we get above 403, 491, and then we can start talking about a bottom. What you tend to do in these golden ratio zones is sometimes you go back and you retest that 50% in the middle. So yeah, like, it's not all, they're levels to watch. You've got to trade really carefully. Please, no leverage like in this pullback, but because it's so choppy and corrective in the bigger coins, I think there maybe are some opportunities. One of the ones I've been trading in the meme coins, as you know, was Kai. Let me find this one. Here we go. And the wrong one, that's Pepe. We can talk about Pepe in a minute. So the retest is the test, as they say. So I marked all of these big fib retrace levels in Kittenheimer because from every one we had really decent bounces from the 38.2, from the 50%, the 61.8, and then they became resistance on the way down. So this 786 fib here, we had a textbook really strong bounce. It reached, you can see the tail here, it reached the 38.2. When you reverse to the 786, you get above the 61.8. That's your target, the 38.2. We tagged it pretty nicely. And boy, did we reverse pretty sharply there. So it says this coin really likes fib levels. So on the retest, the 786 was pretty good support. The next support there is here, the 886. And we bounced from it. Pretty impressive. But again, failed at this daily 20 moving average. And now we're retesting it. When you look back at previous fib support levels, like this 50% here, sometimes you have to spend a few days building a base in these and trade pretty carefully. So the retest is the test. I'm watching this. Here we are, pulling back, retesting it. Let's see tonight if we keep going. And, you know, obviously at some point you run out and you retest the lows and then you can talk about double bottom. But 0.422, a lower high here would point to a really nice, you know, 3-wave measured move. And I think 0.89, you know, could be where we are looking next, because that would take us up to the daily 50 moving average and the first kind of really interesting support and resistance levels. So looking to see if we can build a base jump from here in this one. Okay, Good luck. Let me know if there's anything you're looking at or if anything you're in that's causing you pain. Let me know and we'll talk about where the levels are and the support levels and how to get out of it. Good luck.